Hi everyone, this is Nikki Rowland and I have another layout today for Bramble Fox we are collaborating with the Lollipop Box Club this month. So I am using the Merry and Bright November kit from Lollipop Box Club, which contains a really cute perspective that says memories. I have already used that on a previous layout that was also using the Lollipop Box Club kit, so check that one out too. So I'm just using other things in my box, and I'm also pulling in some other Bramble Fox perspectives. So I've got the word Believe there that you can see, and the Christmas lights too, which are really super cute. And I'm still going with other bits and pieces from my Lollipop box too. So I thought I would try and create a torn area at the top of my layout. I had intended for it to go the entire length of the 12 by 12 layout, and then I realized that my papers weren't long enough, so therefore it's ended up on an angle. You can see that massive piece of wood veneer to the side, which I planned to use across the top of the layout, being 12 inches long, but as that didn't work, I actually don't end up using it in this layout at all. So you can ignore that. You can see that I'm just about working with the angled piece at the top. It kind of threw me a bit, so I was really not quite sure. I was planning to make it much deeper than what it is, but it ended up quite small. I'm trying to get in some pom-pom trim. I love pom-poms at the moment. These ones are quite close together and very small and don't dangle, so they are more tricky to get underneath layers, so therefore at the moment they're not on. So my tissue paper there, that's from the Lollipop Box Club packaging. That was a little bit too deep it didn't quite match the other two layers, so I've just torn that smaller. And you can see I'm trying to arrange my baubles or my Christmas lights at the top there, and I'm just trying to figure out at this point what I'm going to do with my photo. So because my layers right at the top are much thinner than I had expected them to be, I am mirroring that with a little bit at the bottom as well, and I figured I might be able to get my pom-poms in here too. I've also got this piece of trim left over from the Lollipop Box Club kit. I've used some of it already on my previous layout, and this is the piece that I have left over. So I'm just trying to arrange that, get that tucked in place. I want that to form part of my layer. I realised that I should have used my hot glue gun to stick this down. That would have been way easier, but instead I'm using tape and I'm using glossy accents, and my glue gun's literally right next to me, so I don't know what I was thinking, why I wasn't using it. I had like this moment of realisation later that, oh, that was stupid, why didn't I use it for that? Anyway, that's just about stuck in place now. As I say, I'm hoping to arrange my Christmas lights at the top of the layout like this. So this set of Christmas lights came in a pack including some red ones too. I'm going to use some red ones on this layout, but for the area at the top of the layout, I wanted to stick with the green and bluish colour scheme that I had going on. So on one of the pattern papers from the Lollipop Box Club this month, there was these fabulous lights, strings of lights, and as I have lights at the top of my layout there, I thought this would be a nice addition. So I'm fussy cutting those out quite close, having to be careful not to chop off any of the lights or to break my little string there. So I'm just carefully cutting those out, and I'm going to get those into my cluster at the top of the layout, and possibly might do another one and put it into the bottom section as well. So I plan just to kind of stick that over the top of those lights at the top there. So I had used quite a lot of my Lollipop Box Club kit in the previous layout, so I went looking for some other bits and pieces that would work with the things that I've got working here. So I pulled out this big tag, which is from one of last year's collections, Christmas collections, and it had ho 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 on one side, but I couldn't, even though the photo is of Santa, I couldn't fit it in with the ho 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 showing, so I turned it over and used the gingham side, which is lovely, so that was perfect. I've tied it through at the top with the red ribbon that was holding the trim together from the Lollipop Box Club, and I've also strung on that cute little light charm as well. I was planning to put that on my traveller's notebook, but actually it's way better on this layout. I'm just pulling out a piece of wood veneer there. I had a frame that I wanted to get used, so I've cut it in half, so I've got half on one side of my photo poking out from under the tag and one on the other side of the photo. Just gives a bit of extra dimension, a different texture, a different look. Trying to use up some bits of wood veneer there, so that is going in. That wasn't in the kit, that was just an item from my stash. So that little cute heart, the red heart there to the bottom right of my cluster, is from the ephemera or the die cuts from the Lollipop Box Club. I've added You Shine Bright, which was from the cut apart sheet, and I'm just adding in some of the little leaves and berries from the die cuts as well. And I've added in a couple of wood veneer buttons. They kind of brought together the wood veneer frame that I had going on too. So I've also just put there a flare badge that's by Bramble Fox. That's in one of the winter releases. I think it's called something like Cute Christmas or something. It's really cute. So that one is a car with a tree on top, and the colours went really well, so I'm using that on there. I've added a couple of Christmas stockings. Again, they were from last year's Christmas collections, a sticker sheet. Getting my title stuck in place, so that Believe is one of the winter releases from Bramble Fox too. In case you were wondering, I put my tape gun over the top of my word to hold it down, so my photo was on a slightly raised layer because you can see that I had the wood veneer underneath it, so I literally put something heavy on top, normally my tape gun, and walk away for half an hour or so. Normally have to go and like pick up the children or something, so it must have been a good place to stop and do that. Otherwise I wouldn't have done it for very long. Okay, so I'm just putting the rest of my layout together now. So that little bit at the bottom, I've ruffled up some of the gold dot tissue paper that was in the kit, or was the packaging from the kit. I've just ruffled that up a bit so I had some poking out, and then I'm still trying to get these pom-poms in. So no, they definitely won't work at the top, so I'm just trying to add them now underneath the gold ruffled tissue paper there. So do you know what? They don't really work. They're not ideal, but they're in. I don't know why I was so determined to use them. I really wanted to. They have a lovely texture, but it just didn't work. My cutout at the bottom wasn't deep enough, and the problem at the top of the layout as well. So I should have just not bothered, but I was clearly determined today. So there we go. So just covering that little bit with the rest of the gingham paper, the green gingham. And I'm now adding in some more of those cute little lights, Christmas lights, the red ones this time. So the red ones are going to form part of my cluster, photo cluster, and the blue and green ones are part of the top section or area. So I'm just going to get those ones stuck in place. I'm ready to go now basically with everything, so I'm ready to commit and to stick them in place. So just a small amount of glossy accents behind each one, and they are sticking nicely, so just arrange those in a slight curve, and also getting my red ones stuck down too. These are all frosted, so therefore you can see the glue through them, but I find if I give it a generous coat of glossy accents, which does dry clear, if I put like a small dot in the middle, you then be able to really see it, but because I coat the whole of the back of the perspective with the glue, then when it dries so that the whole thing is covered anyway, so it looks fine. Okay, so I fussy cut out another one of those light strands, and I've stuck that along the bottom, just adding in some gold and thread here to give some extra little twiddles around my embellishment areas, and just cutting those down there as well. So the area to the left of my photo is a bit boring, so I'm adding some gold thread there too, and I do come back in and add a sticker there at some point as well. As I say, it's just a little bit dull at the moment. So I had this idea that these lights hanging as they were over to the right of my layout looked like they were just floating in midair. So I felt that they needed to have some bows or to be on strings or something to make them look like baubles, or that they were hanging. So I'm using my very thin sewing thread to tie teeny tiny bows to go on each of my Lights, and they do look really cute actually. You can't see them too well on screen. Oh, here I come with the other sticker. So I used a green sticker from the Lollipop stickers, and they are in place. So my cute gold bows are in place. I've added them at the top too, and I've also added a string of gold thread along the whole of the lights. I didn't want to add a bow to every single light at the top because I thought that might be overkill. So I just added a long thread of gold and then added 3 stars, one in the middle, on not stars, bows. One in the middle and one on each end. So there you go. Just adding in a few sequins. I've also added some splatters of gold inklings by Shimmers, as well as a red one or a reddy pink one called Red Necking. They're ones and inklings, ones are creamies, both by Shimmers. So they're my go-to paints, obviously. So just splattered those on there. Just handwriting in my journaling. I've also added some sequins, and then the date at the top there, and that is me done. So thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I really enjoyed using the Lollipop Box Club kits. There was lots of wonderful things in there and so easy to make a layout with. So yeah, thanks so much for having me. That was Niki Rowland for Bramble Fox and Lollipop Box Club.